Hey, how's it going, guys? Going to talk a little bit today about some firearms fundamentals. When it comes to fundamentals, we could talk about stance, trigger pull, posture, all that stuff. But the one thing that I think is the most important when it comes to shooting a firearm is grip. Stance is important. Again, we want to stand in a nice athletic stance. Trigger pull, depending on how we pull the trigger, that could put some inputs into the gun and things like that. But first and foremost is how we grip the gun. If I can get a good vice grip, a locked in grip on that gun and lock it into place, a lot of that other stuff goes out the window. As far as stance, we live in a 360-degree world. I'm going to be standing in different positions, looking at different things. I'm going to be shooting across my body and things like that. So stance doesn't always have to be exact. Trigger pull, I might be slapping through that trigger in a stressful situation, or it depends on what's going on. I might be able to do a nice smooth trigger pull. It might be different. But if I have the same grip on that gun at all times, that's really where the focus is going to be. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about how to grip the gun and why grip is so important, to show you guys how to get the best grip on the gun so that you can have the same outcome every shot after shot. So first of all, make sure weapon's clear while we're doing this stuff. And then we'll go through just some fundamentals of grip on the gun. So right-handed, first and foremost, you're going to get the V of your hand, so this V portion of your hand, up high in the V of the gun. So if you can see that V that forms right there, I want to get this V to match up with that V up high in the gun. If I'm holding the gun down low, it's not going to, all the reciprocation happens up here. So if I'm holding the gun down low, that fulcrum is a lot lower, and I don't want that. I want to be able to hold the gun up high so that I'm able to manage that recoil and have it up that section up as high as I can in the gun, so that the recoil is manageable and it's not flying out of my hands. Okay. With my primary hand, I'm going to lock this gun into my hand with these three fingers. I'm sucking this gun into my hand by pulling these three fingers into my hand and locking my wrist. I don't want my wrist to be flexible. I want it to be locked in, so that if I was trying to hammer a nail into a piece of wood with the butt of this gun, that gun is not moving in my hand. It's locked in with that nice, good hammer grip. Okay? My index finger and my thumb aren't really doing anything. They're kind of just floating. My thumb, I like to keep my thumb up and out of the way. Even if I'm only shooting with my primary hand, which just kind of locks in a lot of these muscles and keeps that gun nice and locked in. My index finger is floating here as well, because when it needs to, that index finger needs to be able to float so that it can go straight to that trigger. If I'm putting input into the gun with either of those fingers, that thumb or that finger, then I'm pushing the gun offline. So I want to have those basically just floating. The three fingers that are really holding that gun into my hand are these three bottom fingers, really locking in that pinky to activate these muscles here. You'll feel it when you activate these fingers. You'll feel those muscles on your forearm start to activate and lock that gun into your hand. Okay, so that's that good primary grip with the hand, with the primary grip on the gun. Now we'll go into adding our second hand. The way I like to talk about this is I can point my finger or my thumb, I can point my digits at something in space and know that that's where I'm pointing. I can find an object on a wall, or an object in space, a person standing over somewhere off in the distance. I can point my finger at them without even really thinking of it. My eyes look at what I want to point at, and I can point my finger. Same thing with our thumb, right? We talk about pointing fingers is not good manners, so we don't do that. So we'll use our thumb in that situation. Okay, so think about it. You could try this. Look at something on your wall, point your thumb at it. Okay. Look at something on the other wall, point your thumb at it. Point your thumbs at me. Okay. Did anybody miss? Anybody have a hard time finding what they were trying to point at? Try to find it and go, there it is. No, right? As I'm looking at something, I know exactly where it is in space, and I can point my thumb directly at it. So with that being said, if I point my thumb at my target, I know that that's where my muzzle is going to point, as long as I have a good grip on my gun. So the way that I set this up is I like to bring my gun in here, nice good primary hand grip, laying my gun flat. I point my thumb at my target, I open my hand. Now I'm gonna lay my hand on that gun and upright the gun so that when I point my thumb at my target, that muzzle is pointing directly at my target. I'm indexing on that target and able to know that that's where my rounds are gonna go. Even if my sights, even if I can't see my sights, or my sights, I don't really pick up my sights from 5-7 yards, a body size target, I know if I point my thumb at it, that's where it's gonna go, okay? So if you look at building that grip, this section of the gun is like a jigsaw puzzle. That's an open section of the jigsaw puzzle, and I need to fill that section of the jigsaw puzzle to get as much of my hand in there as I can. So luckily, it's like it was meant to be. We have this nice meaty portion of our palm right here that was built to fill in that jigsaw puzzle. It's like God knew that we were going to be shooting guns someday, if you believe in those things. And so he built our hands perfect to be able to hold that. Okay, so I've got this section here that's totally open, and I can bring this meaty portion of my palm and it fits perfectly inside there. See how my thumb's pointed straight forward? So if I was to point my thumb at what I'm looking at on my wall, I know that that's where my rounds are gonna go, okay? So nice, good grip on that gun, thumbs pointing forward, building that grip. This is a good, strong grip on the gun. I'm holding onto the gun. Some people talk about 60% versus 40%. I like to grip the gun 100 and 100, right? I'm gripping the gun as tight as I can to still allow my fingers to manipulate the functions of the gun with my primary hand. And then I'm coming in with my support hand and gripping the gun as tight as I can with my support hand as well, locking it in, okay? Getting that portion of the gun that's open completely filled. Some common mistakes that we see is some people will drop their thumb down and now they're crossing their thumb. As you can see, if I do that, I'm getting a whole section here underneath that my palm can't rest against. So I'm not getting as good of a grip, okay? Some other things that we see is some people will put a finger out in front of the trigger guard. I'm not getting as good a grip there because I'm not getting all my 3 fingers locked into this gun. Some people will bring the opposite side, index finger out front. Again, lock everything in, get those 3 fingers locked in here. Now, as far as grip, when I'm gripping the gun, I'm pushing it out in front of my line of sight, bringing the gun up into my line of sight so that I know that thumb is pointing toward my target. My sight should automatically line up when I do that. If I practice that enough, just pressing it out, eventually my sights will line up exactly where I'm pressing my thumb out, indexing on that target. One other thing that you can do to kind of lock this gun in is bring your elbows up. Kind of visualize this. Visualize you have a horseshoe in your hand and you're trying to bend that horseshoe to make it straight. So if I'm here, bending the gun up, bending that horseshoe to make it straight, kind of bringing my elbows out, not locking my elbows out because again, those are my shocks to be able to manage some of that recoil. The gun should come straight back. If the gun's going way far up, it's a lot harder for me to keep that gun on target, okay? So again, lay the gun flat, build your grip, upright the gun, make sure you have a good tight grip, point your thumb at your target, bring that gun up into the line of sight, bend those elbows like you're trying to bend that horseshoe in place, and get your sights lined up. Once your sights are lined up with both eyes open, now you're set, you can start firing that gun. Okay. Just make sure that you're locking that grip in. If you see your rounds starting to go in different directions, there's some different things that we can do. We can grip a little bit tighter with our support hand to make sure that they're lined up. Sometimes people will, when they're pulling the trigger, they'll grip and they'll start to push the gun off to the side by pulling the trigger and flexing their entire hand. So we can mitigate that by making sure we're pulling straight back, only moving our trigger finger and engaging with both hands to make sure that's locked in, okay? So you can practice this with dry fire, lay the gun flat again, point your thumb at your target, open your hand, lay it flat on the gun, upright the gun, press it out in front of you. Once you're lined up, fire 1 shot and reset. Reset the slide, lay it flat, build that grip, upright the gun, press it out in front of you, and break 1 shot. and continue doing that until you feel pretty comfortable with your grip. And then we'll go out on the range and go from there. Get after it.